G'day, g'day. Welcome to another Frothy Friday. I feel like I should continue on with some form of poeticism here, but I'm not going to. In this yarn, I'm going to chat about turns of phrase in relation to drinking and other substances. I was delivered a delicious challenge last weekend. I attended a festival called Earth Frequency, about an hour and a half northwest of where I live on the Gold Coast. And it was, for all intensive purposes, a bush doof. So, you could dance all night, all day. And it was a pretty radical experience. I volunteered there, and I hadn't volunteered at a festival for quite a while. I was put on the workshop stages, so I was between two different stages, and I was operating backstage, and interestingly, I was doing the COVID check stuff. So it's really interesting to think about volunteering as well. These menial jobs, and Queensland Health were there. So there was one point where it got a bit rocky. Because if you're not following in these times the rules and regulations, they can just shut down a whole festival. If one person like myself, who's a volunteer, doesn't do his job, doesn't fill out the form to say that we've been COVID safe, the whole festival gets shut down. It's pretty wild to think about that. Anyway, I was at this festival. I was supposed to be going with my buddy, and he pulled out last minute. And as I drove into the festival, I bumped into some other friends, and they invited me to camp with them. But I had this kind of resonant feeling, like, maybe not resonant, I just keep saying resonant too much these days. I had this kind of welling up feeling that there was a challenge being delivered to me this weekend. And so I said, yeah, maybe I might. But then as I drove on into the festival, I was there to be a volunteer. So I thought, I'm going to camp with the volunteer crew. So I went into the volunteer camp, met some lovely folks. And I spent the first part of the festival in a workshop about, it was called Partying with Purpose. So very much about what I've been talking about for the past 5 years, like, not that I was doing it like that at the start, but how are we doing it with intention? That was kind of the rich vein. And I guess my addition to that is, how do we do stuff with intention, but then also how do we reflect on it? Because how do we know if we've met that intention, especially if we got buck wild and fucked up? So I decided, after sitting in this circle with people talking about what drugs they were going to take, how they were going to take them, that I wasn't going to do any at all. No alcohol, no other substances, not even coffee, which I have every day. And I felt like it was my challenge. And my other challenge really was to sort of like disintegrate all of the things that when I went to a festival previous times would keep me safe. So that would be hanging out with friends, knowing where they are, knowing where I had to be for my next session, making sure I didn't miss out on stuff, all those things. And the challenge kind of grew because I couldn't actually get any money out as well, because they didn't have internet up there and I don't have a card. I only use my phone. So I couldn't buy any food at the festival. I brought some fruit and chips. I just relied on the fact that I knew that as a volunteer, I could be backstage. And so I had the wildest time. I went wherever I wanted. I spent most of my time in the workshop areas, doing so much meditation, movement, dance, all sorts of stuff. Met some absolutely phenomenal facilitators, and thoroughly enjoyed myself. And then when I felt like it, I'd go off to the stage and get my dance on. And where before I would probably stay on a dance floor for, 3 or 4 hours and just be like, this is the place I need to be because it's got the DJs and all this shit. I was like, as soon as I filled my cup, I was fucking out of there. And as soon as I felt like I bumped into some friends and I would dance with them for a little bit, I was like, okay, this is a boogie woogie. And I'll be like, no, take yourself out of your comfort zone. Go and wander off. And so every time I did that, it came up trumps. It was super fun, super rewarding. And I got to the end of Sunday night and the festival had another day to go. And I just, I went, no, actually that's enough festival for me. And I got in my car and I came home. And I said in my email to my 101 Tokens crew that this isn't I went sober and now I'm never going back. Because fuck that. I love my substances and I love beers and I love these things. But I love a challenge as well. And I love that life can throw challenges at you when you sort of least expect it. I guess on this one, I was also holding a lot of gratitude through the whole thing that we could even go to a festival. Because I know a lot of people around the world can't even do that at the moment. And that we could have these hugs. And what I observed so many things that I have observed at other festivals. And I know why people take a bunch of MDMA and other psychedelics and things at festivals is because they dial up that sense of connection. And not everyone was high. A lot of people were high. A fair few people were pissed. But everyone's smiling. And there was heaps of families there. It was... I can't think of anywhere else that you go where there's thousands of people walking around smiling and having a good time. And just for that experience, it's worth going to a freaking festival, right? With people frothing in a froth state. Because when other people are frothing, it just makes you froth. And even when I was dancing, I would just notice the same things that would come up when I was like high or drunk. Oh shit, am I dancing cool? Am I bopping to the beat? Am I missing it? You know? Am I going to bump into people? There's all these weird things that I noticed, but because I was like, you know, fully with it, I noticed that they're all bullshit. So actually the next time I go to take substances and things like that, I'm going to be able to anchor back to that experience I had and go, no, it's all good. And it's different to going to like an ecstatic dance or something where it's a full sober event, because when everyone's sober, that's the vibe and that's the jam, right? But when there's people who are on all sorts of different planets, all congregating with one singular smile, it's a bit of a different experience and some great learnings for me. And I guess back to what I started with was that inquiry into what's the words. So when I was offered some substances and booze, I also got questioned, you know, what are you on? What are you on? Think about that. Where are you positioned in relation to the thing that you're ingesting? What are you on? And I think on the piss, on the gear, on makes me feel like it's not collaborative. It's like I'm muscling in on this thing. And this is just my opinion. Feel free to go fuck off. But the turn of phrase that I feel like would probably work better would be with. I'm with the tequila. I am with these mushrooms. Because that feels more aligned. And there was this fella I met. He was dressed as a wizard. Let's call him the Doof Wizard. Really, really lovely dude. And he was telling me about alcohol. And he asked me what I was on. And I was like, nah, man, I'm actually doing this experiment. And he's like, oh, man, that's so cool. And then he really wanted to tell me about his drink. So he's telling me about his drink. And I was like, oh, that's a bit weird. He offered me some. And I said, nah, it's all good. And he said something pretty profound, which has stuck with me. And there was a lot of profound sort of things that I learnt over that weekend. And he said, it's got vermouth, it's got gin, it's got X, Y, Z. And then he said, it's got spritz, it's got this fruit, that fruit, etc., etc. And he said, I like to balance my drinks out with things that are alive, because the alcohol is technically dead, right? If you think about it, it was once a fruit or whatever, and then it's been fermented and it's gone through a kind of deathly process. Pretty interesting way to look at it. And so he said he wanted to at least have, 50-50 alive to death in his cup. Because if you think about it, booze is a medicine. It's all a medicine. And so it's worth trying out, and I'm yet to do this. But isn't that an interesting way to think about what you're ingesting and how you do it? And with respect to the fact that even is something that comes up. Speaking of come up, almost came up, my banana bread. Yeah, that's pretty profound. There's something to think about. And I think that's him drinking with his alcohol. That's him thinking about the consciousness of his alcohol and the relationship that he's going to have with it. And he actually mentioned to me the next day when I bumped into him that his friends had not had that relationship with their alcohol and been out in the sun too long and had passed out and kind of fucked their night up. I've done that many times. That would be called a nay. And so, yeah, I'd love for people, if this resonates, send me a note about whether that turn of phrase, I'm with my friends. Why can't our substances be our friends? And there was another fellow who was telling me about how he takes acid. And I was like, this dude sounds like he's done quite a lot of it, gone through his journey, and he takes it consciously, the way he was talking about it. So one thing he said, he goes, whenever you take a substance, you're either running away from something or you're running towards something. And I think when you think about these collaborative, big connection experiences, they can be beautiful, but if you're getting hammered and high to escape the reality of your Monday to Friday, it's not the headspace. It's not, I would argue almost that it's not with the substance. It's almost against, if we want to go there. It's definitely on. It's on. I'm on it. I'm crushing it. Yeah. Frothy Friday. It's been an interesting week since. And my last point that I'll make is that when you go to an event like this, it actually begins well before you get there. And I was supposed to leave on the Thursday and arrive to get set up and drop into the space. But I had a bit of a funky morning with my partner Jackie, and through the day I actually just went, I can't go away for 3 days with that being, here's an applicable use of the term resonant energy between us, because when you carry negativity into a space, what do you think grows? Negativity. So if I was going into that festival having been pissed off and felt sad, and knowing that Jackie was like probably feeling exactly the same back home by herself while I'm off having fun, I would have probably accepted all of the trinkets. And I would have been not with, I would have been on, and I would have been on probably to the point of turbo and nay, which is not good. It would have been a shit house experience. And I just would have, I would have come back on Monday feeling gross, and the rift probably would have grown further. And so I stayed, actually, and I had a token on the Thursday night with Jackie. We split a bottle of red wine. We did something that we'd forgotten that we loved to do at our old property. It's like been 4 months since we moved, which is just to sit on the floor with a mat, have a candle, have a little bit of wine sometimes, and eat a meal together. And it was perfect. It was one of the best yays I've had in so long. And I left for the festival with an on-ramp of froth, and it allowed me to acknowledge the challenge which was presented to me. So hopefully that's helpful. If you got something coming up, it's Frothy Friday, you got something coming up on Saturday and Sunday, it's already in motion. The wheels are in motion for that event right now. And what you carry through will most likely dictate how enjoyable an experience you have, and whether you are with your substances or whether you are on. And let me say one last thing. Through the whole conference, I've just been on a call about a conference, sorry. Through the whole festival, I was using breath as my substance. So I was doing, if it was like fast, I was pumping myself up. If I wanted to get frothy, faster breathing. If I was like, if the beat broke down and there was like a slower movement part, I would do a big breath in, and sometimes either a really slow breath out or an exhale, which is our terminology for exhaling, full exhale out and a hold. And when you do that, you try it now, like, feel how lovely that is. And then combine that, stack that with beats, stack that with frothy humans all moving together. So the breath was my substance for the weekend. And I had such a rad time playing around with that, because like I said, dial it up, dial it down, whatever I wanted to do. And no one can tell that you're doing it unless they're kind of like right in your face, but that didn't happen. Anyway, much love, Frothy Friday. I love these riffs. They're pretty good. They get all that out of my head and into your ears. Hopefully they're useful. Much love.